Hello, my dear friends. Crypto is correcting a little bit, so time to update the Trololo trendline chart and see where we are. Today, the market cap is about 240 billion, 8,700 or so for Bitcoin, for Ethereum $190, and Bitcoin Cash 230. 240 billion. Currently, the trend line stands at 380 billion, and that means that we are undervalued. The value is about 62% of current market cap versus the fair value versus the trend line. So we're undervalued. A couple days back, we went to a peak about 270 billion, and we were then about 30% undervalued. Now we're back at about 40% undervalued. But we were about 60% undervalued here a month back at the bottom. Now we're about 40% undervalued. So it's still a great deal. Crypto is a good time to invest in. But it depends on your exposure. How much exposure do you want? You certainly should have a piece of the exposure that you want as a target. But yeah, for me, I'm around 40% exposure in crypto, and I am waiting. I think the chances are high that we will see a new plateau of undervaluation in this early bull market that will be lower than this one. This is the first early bull market in 2012, the second early bull market in 2016. And now we're at the third early bull market of 2020. And what we see is that overvaluation goes down over time, but undervaluation goes up over time. And so it's most likely it will continue this pattern, and we will not be around here between 40 and 60. We're around 50% undervaluation versus the trend line. Or you could say around 50% valuation versus the trend line. Here we bottomed around 60% of the trend line, here around 50% of the trend line. So I think it's an educated guess that we will likely bottom and stay for a while around 40% of the trend line. And we actually just hit that a month back. But I think it's likely it will come back, and we will be there actually for quite long, for another year to 2 years before we deviate away into a new bubble, which typically happens 1 year before the peak. And so since I estimate the peak around 23, I think we will be till 22 around this area. So I think we will be around till for about 1 year and a half. We will be around 40% valuation, 40% valuation versus a trend line. And that's a long way from here. 380 minus 60% is 380 times 0.4. So 150 billion. We're now at 240 billion. So I think we will go back to 150 billion and stay there. Of course, it goes up slowly then, with parallel to the trend line. But yeah, if we would hit it today, we would go to 150 billion. If it's in half a year, it will be 170 billion or so. But yeah, those are the price targets where I want to invest more and increase my exposure, but not right now. But if we hit those price targets, it would be very comparable to, well, here, for example, we hit shortly undervaluation, we went back up, and then we went back down. But it's at a higher undervaluation where we stay for a long time, but also fiat prices are considerably higher. So you have to be careful there. But yeah, the trend line went up a lot faster in the beginning than today. So I think even versus fiat, yes, we do have a good chance to go below 200 billion and and allow you to buy crypto cheaper. That's for the whole crypto market. Within the crypto market, things can change a lot. Actually, I've been saying this a lot, and it hasn't happened up until today. But in the early bull phase, it is probable that some smaller coins will start to pump because Bitcoin Core has been stealing the show, which is typically the case during the bear market where it goes down the least. But also during the first stage of the early bull market, it goes up the most. But we are past that moment. We have the first phase of the bull market is where the bottom is reached and it goes sideways. And uh, once actually in the previous cycle, you could say the first phase of the bull market was up until the all-time high was breached. Only when the all-time high was breached did other cryptos really to take off and go up a lot versus Bitcoin Core. But that's not fully true. There was also, even in the early bull market, even before we breached the all-time high, some coins were actually much better investments than Bitcoin Core, such as Ethereum that launched in 2015 and IOTA, and even coins like Monero and Dash started pumping already in the early bull market before the all-time high was breached. So I think it's very likely to happen again in this cycle that Bitcoin Core will start to lose a lot of market share even before we breach the all-time high of 20K for Bitcoin Core, or 800 billion for total market cap. But that's only, so that's another 1 year and a half that I think fiat valuations will go down to about 40% valuation versus the trend line, and will slowly then go up with the trend line. But as for the total market cap within that, I think that you will see that certain coins go up a lot versus Bitcoin Core, and so Bitcoin Core starts to lose market share. And so I think coins like Ethereum and Bitcoin Cash have a very good chance, but many others too, of course. And I could be totally wrong about my selection of cryptos because I was wrong in the previous cycle. I was investing big in NXT, for example, and it failed to gain market share. Actually, I should invest in a competitor of NXT, Ethereum, that actually totally did it. It is actually not easy to select the right cryptos that will become big in the next cycle, and it makes a huge difference in returns to pick the right one. So there, my track record is poor, and I'm giving it another shot in this cycle. I think Ethereum and Bitcoin Cash are good, very good bet, but could be wrong, and there might be other coins actually that will steal the show. And actually, up until the past year, it was a coin like what's the name again? One moment. It's Tezos has been doing very well. I totally missed that. But there's another link. Chainlink also has been doing very well past year. I totally missed that. So up until now, again, I've actually been wrong. Picking the coins that actually have gone up a lot in market share is the art, and that has been Chainlink and Tezos for the most part, I think. Whereas other coins have lost market share, such as my selection Bitcoin Cash has lost market share, even though it's still ranked fifth. It did lose, not ranking, but it did lose market share, and that's of course not good. And Ethereum, well, has also lost market share, but not ranking, but it did lose market share. So, but for me, I believe it's too late to jump on these guys. They come from far. What was their market share a year or 2 year back? I don't know. Chainlink was much lower, so they went already up a lot, and I don't believe it has strong fundamentals. I don't believe in the founder. I think he's in it only for the money. He's not an idealist. So this basically, I think, has a very high chance to go down again in market share and market ranking. And so I think it's really a bad investment right now. And Tezos, I'm neutral. Like, I don't know, I don't understand why it has gone up a lot, but I also can see that there are quality people involved. So but my bet is actually on Ethereum. Tezos is a competitor of Ethereum, and I do think that it will be Ethereum does like has the lead and the network effect to its advantage. And I believe that it's doing still the right things to make it a better crypto platform, such as changing to proof of stake will be instrumental, I believe, and I don't think that's the case here. Um, uh, and is much more decentralized thanks to its business model of being voluntary donations for the infrastructure. In contrast to many new projects, I think this is also not. They have a business model where a piece of the inflation goes to development or marketing, and I think these kind of models are causing too much centralization, and therefore are not. Are not competitive, I believe, because crypto is still at high risk of being clamped down on and is still being attacked today by government agents that are actually part of the community and have successfully hijacked the leader, Bitcoin Core. But that means that centralization is a very vulnerable situation to be in, because when a coin is centralized, you only need to hijack a few people and either by bribing them with money or by threatening them with violence, that they will do whatever those state agents want, and the coin is doomed. When it's decentralized, they have to do that with too many people, and they tend, well, then they don't. Then it doesn't work, or it's not so easy. So and actually, with proof of stake, Ethereum takes it a step further, and it becomes much more decentralized, because proof of work mining is very centralized. You always end up with a few players controlling 51% of the mining power, of the voting power, of the hashing power. And with proof of stake, you get actually more and more decentralization. The bigger the coin becomes, the more people you need uh, to get to that 51%, because coins get distributed more and more over more and more people as the value goes up. So anyway, a little diversion here, but you do have to select the right coins, and that will make a huge difference over the first 1 to 2 years, whether you will make lots of gains or not. And certain coins will lose a lot of market share. I'm very convinced, and I've been actually telling this a little bit too long now, already a year. But already a year ago, I said that BTC dominance is likely peaking out at 70%, and it has been true up until today. It has not been able to breach it, but I am very surprised myself, actually, that it has been around that 60-65% for already almost a year now, which I didn't expect. I expected it to go down faster. So that hasn't happened, but I still think it's very unlikely that Bitcoin Core will breach that 70% market dominance. And I think it's very likely to continue to go down in market share. So I think that's quite probable to be one of the worst crypto investments over the next year to 2 years. No, actually, there will be actually many smaller coins and also bigger coins that will lose a lot more, actually, market share and market ranking. And many small coins are still in the process of dying, because in the early phase of a bull market, all the money goes to only a few coins, and actually some smaller coins are still going down, not only in Bitcoin core valuation, in BTC valuation, but also in fiat valuation. And it's still actually a process where many coins die. So actually you can do worse than Bitcoin core still in this early phase, because we're still in the selection phase where it's tough on many coins, and that's for a good reason. There are way too many coins in crypto. You really need to prove your worth, to be able to survive, because we have how many coins now? 5,000 cryptocurrencies. That's ridiculous. It needs to be trimmed down a lot. So I would also not. I'm also not actually involved in smaller coins. Even the few small coins I have from the previous cycle that I was not smart to sell, I still have Obite, and also I have Bismuth. Um, but I have not invested in them more, and I also not my time, because yeah, just like all smaller coins, I think they need to prove their worth and need to prove that they're able to survive, able to innovate, able to find adoption with, if it's not end consumers, at least with developers that build on top of it. And that's hard work. And if they succeed in that, I might select them again in 1 to 2 years' time, when I think the time is right to invest in smaller coins, but not right now. I think you should invest in the big coins now. Um, and the next year to 2 years, we can take a look who in 1 to 2 years, when we indeed go back close to the all-time highs of about 800 billion. We're now at 200 billion to 30. I think it's likely we will drop to 150, 160, 170, and stay there for a year, 2 years, go back to 200, 250, but then we will go into a new bubble, and we will then close the gap at the all-time high of 800 billion. And when we're between that 400 and 800 billion, I think it's very good idea in 1 to 2 years from here to really diversify your bigger coins into smaller coins, and only then look at, okay, what did these guys do the past few years? Have they been able to build something of value? Do they have a chance to really be there for the long term? If they survive the whole previous cycle, that's already a good sign. But the jury is still out. Oh, I have to add one thing, and that is that I think it's too dangerous to try to trade crypto. I don't sell any crypto anymore. I did that a few times, using this chart mainly as a source of confidence that we would go lower, but current valuation of crypto are very good. We are at 40% undervaluation versus a trend line. So it's seriously undervalued. And fiat valuations are also cheap. Ethereum 20 billion market cap. Is that a lot or not? Um, Under 60 billion for Bitcoin Core is too high. That's not worth it at all, because they really are not working on adoption. They're not making it work well as a currency. So actually, this is highly overvalued in my opinion. But 20 billion for Ethereum, not, I believe, or 5 billion for Bitcoin Cash, not, I believe. Why? Because yes, if you look at the actual adoption, this is valued way too high. The amount of people actually using Bitcoin Cash as a currency is very low. But it's normal that in the early stage of a new market, that value comes from speculation, not from adoption. For example, you look at the Wild West at the time of America. The value of the land went up before the railroads were put down and before the actual people came. Or dot-com bubble in the 90s, the value of the dot-com companies went up before they were actually being used and highly adopted. That's normal. But there is a huge difference, because some will succeed and others will fail. And so if you are going to pay premium prices, which we are doing, Ethereum is not worth 20 billion at all from a actual adoption perspective. You do need to pick those that are actually going to succeed later on to get that adoption. I have a high chance to do that. And actually, Ethereum has the highest probability, because most developers build on top of Ethereum. Most actual real companies that do something with crypto, they do it with Ethereum. So actually, Ethereum risk reward, I think, is very good because of that. It's much less the case actually with Bitcoin Cash, even though I'm a big fan. My heart is in it. Objectively speaking, the adoption, the chance that it's going to succeed is a lot lower than with Ethereum, because there's a lot less people building on top of Bitcoin Cash than on top of Ethereum. But it has some things to its advantage. It is Bitcoin, so it has the Bitcoin brand name, and for new people, and still, like, we're not even at 2% adoption here. crypto adoption is still at the very, very early phases. So most of the people that will join crypto still have to join crypto and will be new to crypto. And so what kind of currency will they prefer? Will they prefer Ethereum or will they prefer Bitcoin? Obviously, they prefer Bitcoin because they know the brand name, but they don't know the brand name Ethereum. What people know, they will choose. What they don't know, they will not choose. It's very simple. And Bitcoin Cash has a chance, therefore, to get a lot more newbies joining Bitcoin Cash than Ethereum, simply for the name. Today, actually, Bitcoin Core is the beneficiary of that. Most newbies and most new investors, small retail investors, as well as institutional investors, choose Bitcoin Core. But you can't, like, it's not possible to succeed if you keep the, if you don't really make it, it's like starting an electrical car, but not really offering all the benefits from an electrical car, which is that it does not pollute. You don't have to. It's very cheap to charge. It pulls up very fast and always faster. You can do more and more miles with one battery charge. Um, uh, it's much more durable. It's also much safer. Like all these benefits, you have to exploit if you build an electrical vehicle. And Bitcoin is not exploiting the power of blockchain. It's not offering dirt cheap transactions, which you can do with blockchain, that are verifiable on chain, that are have no counterparty risk, allowing decentralized finance to be built on top of it, and offering all kind of banking services without counterparty risk. Like that's what you need to do as a cryptocurrency, because those are the benefits of blockchain, and it's not doing it. So over time, it may now be the leaders. Like it's very much like at the time in the dot-com era, Yahoo was the leader in search, but it didn't understand the internet. It did it wrong. It thought it was a TV company, and it thought that it had to like act like a TV company. Let's put all kind of things on our homepage, not only search, but also let's do a news show. Let's do games. Let's do all kind of things, and it was very cluttered. And we need to keep people in our website, and we should not link them to other websites. That's what TV channels do. Like it was thinking like the old market, and therefore it lost to other players that saw the power of the internet, such as Google with search, and said, "Fun, we only need to offer a search box and then we link to the whole internet." And the point is that they leave the website immediately and as quickly as possible to find what they want, and we don't offer anything else here. That was the right approach, and we need to really focus on, yeah, voila. And it's the same here. So Bitcoin will lose over time just market share, because yeah, you can't do what blockchain, what cryptocurrencies really offer as value. You can't do cheap transactions that are fast, immediate. No, the network is cluttered. It's slow, like Roger Ver says so often. It's expensive, and it's unreliable, and that's just not going to work. So over time, more and more people just go to look at the other coins, and it loses market share. And then you have to look ahead and look at the era after Bitcoin Core. What will people be able to choose from? And while Bitcoin Cash, and many people believe also in Bitcoin SV, but I don't. Of course, you can make the same case for Bitcoin SV. It also has the Bitcoin brand name, but but I do believe that that Bitcoin Cash makes a good chance to go up, because it offers that very cheap transactions, which Ethereum is not offering. Also, they are making a mistake there. They are not scaling up fast enough, and so transactions are also expensive. That's a problem for Ethereum. Bitcoin Cash does that right, and continues to offer very cheap transactions. So Bitcoin SV also, by the way. But I think that is key also to attract decentralized finance to build on top of you, because yeah, you can do a lot more with very cheap transactions than with expensive transactions. One final difference between Ethereum, Bitcoin Cash is that permissionless and decentralized. There's one problem with Ethereum, and that is that it is dependent on a strong leader, Vitalik Buterin, who has done an amazing job in making it as decentralized as possible, and making sure that without him it can continue to flourish. And it has different clients. It's a robust and um, but it is like, what will happen with Ethereum if something happens to Vitalik Buterin? It might not be able to continue to flourish. It depends a lot on his genius. Like I don't know any other. There is a Vladimir, but I don't know any other people that really pull the project forward. I'm sure there are many, but Vitalik is like 99% more famous than the others. It's a bit like Elon Musk for Tesla or Steve Jobs for Apple. You lose such key people. It's really, it may be the end of the company. And you can see that with Apple. It was the end of Apple when Steve Jobs left, and for Microsoft also when Bill Gates left. Um, yeah, you can't replace such people. It's very rare that you see someone else that takes the lead as good as they had before. So that's the vulnerability of Ethereum. And you don't have that with Bitcoin Cash. Yes, Roger Ver, of course, is also a very big person in the space, and adds a lot of value to Bitcoin Cash. And if Bitcoin Cash would lose him, that would be bad. But what I do see, and of course you also have that in Ethereum, but I think a little bit less, is that there is a strong community of idealists and that really believe in the Bitcoin project. The early Bitcoin investors, actually, many of them went to Bitcoin Cash, and they are there for the to build a peer-to-peer decentralized cash system, peer-to-peer cash system that is not. That is really improving the world. And I think even if Bitcoin Cash loses Roger Ver, I think it is really starting to have a strong enough community of different people that will be able to continue work hard and make this a success. You also have this with Ethereum, but I think just a little bit more with Bitcoin Cash. I think with Ethereum, what you have there is a lot of like the people that used to invest in Silicon Valley now, and they want to invest in crypto, they choose Ethereum, and they know a lot about network effects and about developers and about technology, but they are not so much in touch with the foundations of cryptocurrency when it comes to being sound money, and fighting fiat currencies and fiat inflation. uh, that's not really where they are coming from, and that makes it also a risk that because they don't value that high enough, they might be implementing certain things that actually don't respect that, or they might be hijacked by state agents more easily, or by parasites, or developers that want to make it their own project. Like yeah, you really need a system that's well protected against takeover, and against rent seekers. And as we just saw in Bitcoin Cash, it can even come from the people that have been central to the project. In the case of Bitcoin Cash, MRCC and Bitcoin EBC, that was the biggest client of Bitcoin Cash, really tried to hijack the project and implement a death tax that would really destroy the project. So it can come from all sides, and the best protection against such a takeover is a community that is idealistically driven. not just money driven, but idealistically driven. Because when you're money driven, only money driven, then it's easy to choose. Well, people tend to choose short term gain at the expense of long term gain. But when it's idealistically driven, they don't care about, they want a beautiful system. The making money is also important, but it's not primarily. Yeah, what I want to say was that actually, the point I was making was I don't think it's worthwhile to try to trade crypto and sell the coins you value, except when it's Bitcoin Core. But if it's smaller coins and even Ethereum, I don't believe it's worthwhile to try to trade in and out of these coins, because um, because it's likely that some of these coins will gain a lot of market share, and that's similar to the early bull phase of the previous cycle. Let's say, well, actually, this was the bear market from 2013 was the peak, then 2014 it was the peak, huh? And then 2014 was the whole 2014 here was the bear market, and then we had a bull market, early bull market, let's say till 2016. So I think we are here now in the, we haven't actually made a new low. So we are, since the past year, we've been in a early bull market, and but we also saw, like the before, that the market share of Bitcoin Core went up here to 90%, from a low of like 80% to 90%. But I think we are starting the second phase of the bull market, early bull market now. And you could say that last still the all-time high is breached of 800 billion total market, of 20K for Bitcoin Core. And during that period, in the previous cycle, you saw that Bitcoin Core already lost quite some market share. It went from 90 down to 80, back to 85. And then once the all-time high is breached, it just drops off a cliff in the previous cycle. But I think we're here right now. We're not at 90. We're at around 70 or 65, and I think we'll go down. So because some coins will pump. In the previous cycle was Ethereum here that pumped a lot, and due to that, market share of Bitcoin Core collapsed. But many other coins also gaining market share here. What is this one here? Others 18%. And so you can see that here others are at 2%, 3%. But the early bull market go from 3%, that's basically the small coins, to 7%, so more than double in market share. So I think that's what we're starting now. So to try to sell smaller coins or even bigger coins for fiat and then try to buy back later may actually not work out, because the moment some of these coins increase in market share, that means that in fiat value they go times 3, 4, 5, even sometimes 10. You will never see those fiat prices again later. So that's why it's too risky. Yeah. And that was my point. That's why I don't think it's worthwhile to try to trade this, except for Bitcoin Core, that is likely to lose market share. That is objectively way too expensive. 160 billion, that's not the value, and that's not fair value at all, considering that it won't be adopted as a currency, not for merchants, but also not for gambling, or not for DeFi, and even not for um, even losing its market share in the exchanges, on the exchanges, where in the crypto world everything would be traded versus Bitcoin Core. Even that it's losing now to stable coins, and even to do transfers between exchanges and to from exchange to personal accounts used to be all Bitcoin Core. But even there, of course, because of the high transaction fees and the cluttered network, other coins take away that market. So that's the one coin that I strongly recommend to either flip for other coins or to sell for fiat. And I've been recommending this a long time. And price wise, I've been wrong. But well, even a clock is right 2 times a day, huh? even a clock that's not working. So I think my time has to come to be right about Bitcoin Core again, that it will start to lose a lot of market share that we'll never see again. I think we are getting closer and closer to that.